In a democracy, it's just not possible for millions of people to all govern directly. So we do it through our representatives. But how do we choose them? And maybe more importantly, does that choice actually matter? Well, let's dive into the powerful world of electoral politics and see how a single vote can truly shape the destiny of a nation.
To really get a feel for the raw power of an election, let's travel back in time. The year is 1987, and we're in the Indian state of Haryana. A huge election is happening, and you can just feel it in the air. Something big is about to change.
This quote just perfectly captures the scene. And believe me, this was not just any crowd. We're talking thousands of people, waiting for 5 hours, well past midnight, for one man to arrive, Chaudhry Devi Lal. He was an opposition leader. And for a whole lot of people who are unhappy with the government, he had become this huge symbol of hope.
And then he made the promise. Standing in front of all those people, Devi Lal made a clear, direct pledge. He said his party, the Lokdal, would make it their very first act in government to forgive the loans of farmers and small business owners. For a lot of people in that crowd, that was exactly what they needed to hear.
So what happened when people actually went to vote? Well, it was nothing short of a political earthquake. Devi Lal's party and its allies won a staggering 76 out of 90 seats in the state assembly. This wasn't just a win, it was a total landslide, a complete rejection of the party in power.
And here's where you see the direct line from the ballot box to government action. Just 3 days after the results were in, Devi Lal was sworn in as chief minister. And true to his word, his government immediately issued an order waiving those outstanding loans. A promise was made, votes were cast, and a policy was changed. Just like that.
Okay, so that Haryana story is a fantastic example of electoral power. But it really makes you wonder, right? It brings up a much more fundamental question. Why do we even have this system? Why do we need to elect representatives in the first place?
I mean, think about it. In a large community, let alone a whole country, it's just not possible for everyone to get together and make decisions on every little thing. Can you imagine? Not everyone has the time, let alone the specialized knowledge, for all of that. And so we choose people to represent our interests instead.
And that right there is the whole point of an election. It's the mechanism that lets us pick our representatives. But here's the kicker, and this is so important. It also gives us the power to change them if they're not doing a good job. That power to change things up, that is the absolute bedrock of a representative democracy.
Yeah, and look, this whole process, it obviously creates competition. And that competition can have its downsides, right? It can create division and what we sometimes call party politics. But you know what? The folks who framed the Constitution, they knew this. They still opted for competition because it has one massive advantage. It forces parties to actually serve the people. If they don't, they know they're not going to win the next election. It's that simple.
Okay, but here's a crucial point. Just having an election doesn't automatically make a country democratic. A lot of non-democratic countries hold elections too. So what's the real difference? What are the key ingredients that make an election truly, genuinely democratic?
So what are we talking about here? Well, there's basically a simple checklist. First up, an equal vote. Everyone should have one vote, and every single vote has to have the same value. Second, you need real choice. Voters have to have different parties and candidates to actually choose from. Third, elections have to be regular. That choice has to be offered again and again at predictable intervals. Fourth, the people's choice has to win. The candidate that voters prefer should be the one who gets elected. And finally, number 5, the entire process has to be free and fair.
All right, with that checklist in mind, let's zoom in on one of the biggest democratic exercises on the entire planet. Elections in India. How does this system actually work on the ground?
So, how does it all work? Well, first, the country gets divided up into these electoral areas we call constituencies. For the big one, the main national election, the Lok Sabha, India is split into 543 of them. The voters in each one of those areas elect one representative, who then becomes a member of parliament, or an MP.
Okay, so who actually gets to vote in these constituencies?
Well, the system is built on a really powerful idea called universal adult franchise. And it's actually pretty simple. Every single citizen who is 18 years old or older has the right to vote. It doesn't matter what your caste is, your religion, your gender, none of that. If you're eligible, you're on the official voters list.
Now, let's be real. We've all heard the stories, right? Stories about unfair practices, about money and muscle trying to influence votes. So we have to ask the biggest question of all. On this massive, massive scale, are elections in India actually free and fair?
Well, one of the best ways to answer that is to look at who's the referee. In India, elections are run by the Election Commission, or the EC, and this is an incredibly powerful and independent body. It's got the same kind of independence from the government that the judiciary does, and that is a really big deal.
And when I say powerful, I mean it. The EC makes decisions on every single aspect of an election, from announcing the dates all the way to declaring the results. It puts in place a strict code of conduct, and it can punish any candidate or party that breaks the rules. And get this, during an election, even government officials don't answer to the government. They answer to the EC.
Here's another way to take the temperature of a democracy. Do people actually show up? And the data here might surprise you. While voter turnout has actually gone down in a lot of established democracies in Europe and North America, in India, it's either stayed stable or, in some cases, it's even gone up. That suggests a really powerful belief among citizens that their vote really matters.
And if we dig into who is voting, this chart shows something pretty incredible. It's a huge contrast to many Western democracies like the US, where poorer and minority communities tend to vote less. In India, the poor, the illiterate, and underprivileged citizens actually vote in larger numbers than the rich and privileged do. So participation is truly, truly broad-based.
But you know, maybe the best proof is in the pudding, and that's the outcome itself. In India, ruling parties lose elections all the time. About half of all sitting MPs and MLAs lose when they run for re-election. And this is key, the party that loses almost always accepts the result as the people's verdict. So, all of this really paints a picture of a system that, at its core, is free and fair. But, and it's a big but, we have to be real. The picture isn't perfect. There are some serious limitations and challenges that we absolutely have to acknowledge. And we're talking about some significant challenges here. Candidates with a ton of money can have a pretty unfair advantage. In some parts of the country, candidates with criminal connections can still manage to get a spot on the ballot. And we often see these political families that dominate parties kind of passing down power like it's an inheritance. And yet, even with all those very real problems, the general feeling is still this. A few candidates might win through unfair means, but that doesn't corrupt the entire system. The overall result of a general election in India is still seen as a genuine reflection of what the people want.
So where does that leave us? We've got a system that's incredibly strong, but it's also got some serious flaws. It gives power to the masses, but it's constantly facing challenges from money and power. Which really brings the whole thing right back to you, the voter. In this complex, vibrant, and imperfect democracy, what does your vote truly represent?